So to my caller, I'm sorry to keep you on hold for a couple minutes there. Who's this?
This is Scott. How you doing?
Hey.
I live here in Utah.
Hi, Scott from Utah. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, so I'm actually pretty kind of floored over this whole thing. You know, I listen to Alex, I listen to you, and I've read Amy Jacobson's book on Area 51. And the UFO topic is really important to me because I've seen like way too many. And what I think is really interesting is what they're showing us is just absolute garbage. I mean, I was in the Air Force. They have way high-tech cameras, and they're showing us this grainy footage. But it's really interesting that they're still showing us this. And the reason why I'm calling in is because I think like the United States is the last one to admit that there's UFOs. Where everyone else was saying that, hey, we're seeing this stuff. Like, you know, Belgium was talking about it. You know, Mexico's been talking about it. Like, everyone's been talking about it, and we're the last people that are like acknowledging that their existence.
I agree with you. World governments have largely been more open on the topic in recent years and even decades versus the United States. So they're very late to the game, I should say. But I would say if this was a competition, the U.S. Navy just kind of trumped some of the other governments by starting to label it a phenomena of some kind, starting to look at actual evidence that exhibits technology that we may not even have today. That starts to open up a slew of other questions. So regardless of them being late to the game, they just added a lot to the story by saying, you know, what they did. But you're absolutely right. World governments have absolutely been more open about this topic than America. No disagreement there.
No, absolutely. They've been testing the waters. Like, remember that blue thing that shot? They said they launched an ICBM across the country. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And you know, we saw that here in Utah, and they were saying that it was photographed in California. But anyhow, I also wonder if this is also tied in with the whole Space Force thing. So maybe this could be, you know, they're saying, hey, you know, this stuff actually exists. This is why we need a Space Force, because something's going on. It also reminds me of Childhood's End, you know, where they're, you know, just kind of like, you know, just testing the waters, you know, how sleepy people are.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've got you know, for me, there's just no doubt. You know, I hear these conversations all the time, and this and that. But it's like I've seen way too many UFOs, you know, and it's not like the government's like, oh, we're going to pick on Scott. We're going to see what he has to think and see what he has to say. Because I'm like in the middle of nowhere, and I'll be, you know, sky watching. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's that? You know,
yeah.
and with other folks, so like it's not some lone nut in the woods.
Yeah, I going back to your Space Force comment, I don't know if you were listening in. Someone had submitted a text question on the Space Force and whether or not I think it's connected. In a nutshell, I personally don't think that it is. I think that the Space Force is going to have a very specific job and operation and protect us from a very, very serious threat. I mean, I've got a lot of documents on the Black Vault about how serious some of these threats are when satellites are taken down and digital infrastructures are infiltrated and stuff like that, which obviously ties into our space assets. So I think that really is going to ultimately be the mission. I know a lot of people want to say that the mission is going to be looking out at threats versus looking in. Yeah, that may be an aspect to it, but I don't see it. Nor do I think that they would spin this narrative for something like the Space Force. I mean, as we know, if a president wants something or politicians want it, they'll find the money to do it, whether it be black money or not. So I don't think that they have to spin a public narrative, because did the public really ever get behind the Space Force other than say it was really cool and we needed it? But it's not like we had this massive vote that said, hey, based on the revelations of these UAPs and UAPs and UFOs and Navy statements and this and that, we need a Space Force. So that's why I really don't see the evidence to connect the two, at least not yet.
Oh, that's fine, totally. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I've been hearing rumors that the Navy says that they've only like really kind of charted 10% of the ocean. Have you heard that, or is it totally off base?
I'm sorry, it kind of broke up. That the Navy what of the ocean?
The Navy says that they only really know about 10% of the ocean. Like they it's just really big.
Yeah, no, it is massive, and I think that's more of a scientific piece of information versus just the Navy, meaning there are, I don't know what the exact percentage is nowadays. I think it's a little higher than 10%, but there is a high percentage of the ocean that we just haven't really explored yet or mapped. And so, yeah, I mean, we're getting a little bit away from the UFO/UAP debate, but in the same respect, and especially with the Navy, and we'll see if maybe there's a story about this coming up. But there are rumors and stories that the U.S. Navy not only sees things in the sky, but sees things in our ocean. And in our oceans, that there's things that you just cannot explain. And they call them USOs, or unidentified submersible objects. No, that's not an official acronym, at least not yet anyway. Not any statement that I've received yet. But that is a very important topic. But going back to your point, yeah, there's a mass amount of our oceans that we just have no idea what's there. We haven't mapped it. We haven't explored it. And, as time goes on, maybe we'll make some more discoveries.
Yeah, I think it's just so interesting. The Navy is the one that's bringing this up, not the Air Force. Yeah,
hopefully that will also change here in the coming weeks and months. I think that in regards to the Air Force, I think it's time for them to address a little bit about what this is, and it'll be very interesting to see how they coincide with the Navy, because the Navy has been very, very open about it, at least as open as as they've normally been. They're incredibly open compared to what they've been in the past. Still very, very classified, obviously. They're still very secretive about it, but regardless, they've really gone on the record. So I think that it's time for another military branch to address something. Hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll see something.
I absolutely agree. Because, the Air Force is consistently here in Utah, it's a military state, and there's consistent flights going on. And where I live, I've seen things just right off my porch, and then I've also seen aircraft, kind of like going after it. So, these little videos they have, they're not unique. I know that they have a treasure trove of data, because they're constantly flying. That's what Amy Jacobson was saying in her book Area 51 with the U-2 pilots. They were just trying to fly to Russia. You can only imagine what they saw. Of course, the Foo Fighters back in World War II. This subject is so old, and it's for me, it's very, I'm happy to hear this. Like Peter Levenda was just saying, they're just doing this slow little drip, which kind of reminds me of Childhood's End.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, the coming weeks and months, more stuff's going to come out from the military. We'll be able to address it and go from there. But I really do appreciate your call.
Hey, you have a great day. I love your work.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for watching and listening.